There's something deeply human about looking up. Before we carved borders, before we built cities, before we even had words for what we were feeling, we looked to the sky, and in that infinite dome of light and shadow, we found gods. Stars that shimmered like fire set free from the earth, patterns that whispered stories only the night could hold, a darkness so vast, it begged for meaning. Why did Orion always chase? Why did the Pleiades weep? Who scattered the stars like seeds across the heavens? Every culture on Earth has stared into the same sky and written a different myth. Some saw the heavens as a battlefield, others a divine map. Some believed the stars were ancestors, others believed they were the eyes of the gods themselves. But all agreed on one thing: the sky was not empty. It was alive, watching, waiting, and perhaps most importantly, it was a mirror, a reflection of our fears, hopes, desires, projected into the stars so we could make sense of the chaos down below. This is the story of those skyborn myths. Not just stories of constellations, but of creation and destruction, of cosmic beings, radiant and terrible, of deities born from stardust, and of humans who dare to follow them. We'll travel from the deserts of ancient Mesopotamia to the frozen skies of the Inuit, from the temples of Egypt to the jungles of the Maya, from the Greek gods of Olympus to the Aboriginal Dreamtime. 10,000 years of wonder, traced in 10 billion points of light. But why do these myths endure? Why, in a world of telescopes and satellites, do we still speak in the language of stars? Because myths are not just stories. They are survival tools. And when you're a tiny human, standing under an endless sky, telling a story might be the only way to feel a little less alone. So tonight we look up again, not with superstition, but with reverence. Because in the myths of the cosmos, we don't just find the gods, we find ourselves. To understand the myths of the heavens, we must first understand the world that gave birth to them. Imagine a time before electricity, before clocks, before satellites, before calendars. The sky was the clock, the stars the calendar, the moon the measure of time, and the sun, an unrelenting god who rose and fell with divine precision. In the earliest civilizations, from Sumer to the Indus Valley, from pre-dynastic Egypt to early China, the sky was not just symbolic, it was survival. A missed season could mean death, a wrong harvest, ruin, and so the stars became oracles. In ancient Mesopotamia, the priests of Ur and Babylon recorded celestial movements with obsessive detail. They believed the gods lived in the sky, and their moods were etched in the constellations. Jupiter wasn't just a planet, it was Marduk, the great god of justice. Venus was Inanna, goddess of love and war. And eclipses, signs of upheaval, a celestial warning, an omen that could topple kings. In Egypt, the heavens mirrored the kingdom. The Milky Way was a celestial Nile. Orion was Osiris, god of the afterlife. Sirius, Sopdet to the Egyptians, rose before the annual flooding of the Nile, marking the start of the new year. They didn't just observe the stars. They built their cities in alignment with them. Temples and pyramids rose from sand, aligned to cardinal points, shadowed and lit by solstices and equinoxes. The stars were not distant, they were architectural blueprints. In the Americas, long before Spanish ships reached the shores, the Maya had already calculated solar eclipses and planetary cycles with shocking precision. Their sky was filled with serpents and jaguars, sun gods and moon goddesses. The constellations weren't abstract, they were alive, part of an unfolding cosmic drama. For them, the universe was reborn every night. Across the Pacific, Polynesian navigators charted entire oceanic journeys, using only the stars, wave patterns, and wind. No compasses, no maps, just memory, intuition, and the belief that the sky was their guide, and perhaps a kind of spirit guide at that. In China, the sky was not just a story, it was a bureaucracy. The emperor was the son of heaven, and the stars reflected the balance, or imbalance, of the state. Comets and supernovae were not random, they were cosmic audits. And then there were the Aboriginal peoples of Australia. Among the oldest living cultures on Earth, they speak of the dreaming, the timeless realm where creation myths live. Their constellations are not defined by the stars themselves, but by the dark spaces between. The emu in the sky, for instance, is not made of stars, but of shadows in the Milky Way. What connects all these traditions? They all looked up, and they all saw meaning. Even when they saw different things, the impulse was the same: to order the chaos, to make sense of what lies beyond, to tell a story when the night fell and the fires burned low. And so, the sky became not just a canvas, but a library. Every star a sentence, every constellation a chapter, and across continents and millennia, humanity kept writing, always looking up, always wondering. The cosmos was the first great myth, and every civilization added its verse. To trace the origin of celestial myths is to follow a trail of whispers across time, from fireside chants to carved stones, from oral traditions to sacred texts. Long before writing, there were stories, and those stories often began with the stars. The earliest star maps are not made of ink or parchment, but bone and rock. In the caves of Lascaux, France, over 17,000 years old, archaeologists found patterns resembling the Pleiades and Taurus. Were they merely coincidence, or the first recorded constellation? On a mammoth tusk from Germany, over 30,000 years old, carved notches align with lunar cycles. It seems we have always counted the nights. The Babylonians were among the first to codify the stars into recognizable constellations. They gave us the zodiac, 12 segments of the sky tied to seasons, stories, and deities. These weren't just for astrology, they were timekeeping tools, calendars of light. But alongside the practical came the divine. Take the Sumerians. They spoke of Un, the god of the sky, limitless and eternal. From him came the heavens, the gods, and the destiny of kings. In their creation myths, humans were molded from clay, but it was the stars that determined fate. In Egypt, the goddess Nut arched her star-studded body across the sky. She swallowed the sun each night and gave birth to it every morning. Her myth is not just poetry, it's cosmology. In Vedic India, the sky was both battlefield and womb. The god Indra split the dragon serpent Vritra, releasing the rivers and light. The Ashvins, twin horsemen of dawn, raced across the heavens each morning. And the Nakshatras, lunar mansions, divided the night sky into 27 parts, each with a myth, a meaning, a deity. In Greece, the stars became frozen echoes of mortal folly and divine punishment. Orion, the great hunter, slain and placed in the sky. Cassiopeia, cursed to spin upside down for her vanity. The constellations weren't just maps, they were morality plays. And yet, many of these myths may be far older than the cultures that recorded them. Some researchers believe that star myths traveled with people, carried in memory and story as humans migrated out of Africa and across the globe. Why else would so many cultures tell of a 7-star cluster we call the Pleiades? From the Navajo to the Maori, from the Greeks to the Japanese, the story changes, but the stars remain. In Japan, they are Subaru. In Greece, the Seven Sisters. To the Aboriginal Australians, they are pursued across the sky by Orion. In Africa, they signal the time to plant. The same stars, the same sky. Different tongues, but perhaps one shared yearning, the longing to find order in the infinite, to explain why we are here, and to mark our place, no matter how small, in the vastness above. And so the myths were passed down, not as fixed doctrines, but as living breath, told by grandmothers, sung by priests, etched into stone and woven into textiles, changing slightly with each telling, yet always pointing upward. These were not lies. They were truths of another kind, truths of feeling, of wonder, of the soul's need to name the unknown, because the sky, in all its brilliance, refuses to be silent, and the myths we told were our attempt to answer its call. Who lives in the sky? Every mythology has an answer, and each is as dazzling, terrifying, and mysterious as the stars themselves. Let us meet the beings who ruled above. In ancient Mesopotamia, the heavens were a crowded kingdom, and the supreme sky god sat at the top, remote, distant, and powerful. His children and grandchildren became the active deities. Enlil, god of wind and storms. Nana, god of the moon. And Utu, the radiant sun god who brought justice each day. These gods didn't merely observe the world, they shaped it. They weren't abstract. They had moods, families, rivalries. Their behavior explained everything from droughts to eclipses. In Egypt, the sky was female. Nut, the celestial goddess, was bent over the earth, her fingertips and toes touching the horizon. Each night, she swallowed the sun god Ra, carrying him through the underworld in her body, before birthing him again at dawn. This was not metaphor. It was belief woven into ritual, calendar, and temple. The sun god Ra, often merged with Atum or Horikti, sailed across the sky in his solar boat, battling the chaos serpent Apophis during his nightly journey. Victory meant sunrise. Failure meant cosmic ruin. In Hindu cosmology, the celestial realm is layered and populated by luminous beings called devas. Surya, the sun god, rides a chariot pulled by 7 horses, symbols of the visible spectrum. Chandra, the moon, rules over the tides of mind and body. And Rahu and Ketu, shadowy celestial serpents, cause eclipses by devouring the sun or moon, only to cough them back up, creating a cycle of light and darkness. In the Norse cosmos, the sky was a battlefield. The gods of Asgard, led by Odin the All-Father, ruled from the heavens. They looked down upon Midgard, Earth, intervening in the affairs of mortals, giants, and fate itself. The Bifrost, a glowing rainbow bridge, connected the realms, a celestial arc spanning myth and meaning. Even the stars were warriors. Orvindil, a frost giant, had his frozen toe cast into the sky by Thor, becoming a star. To the Norse, the night sky was less divine serenity and more the lingering embers of cosmic conflict. Among the Greeks, the sky was filled with stories of transformation and punishment. Zeus, the sky father, ruled from Mount Olympus, casting thunderbolts from the clouds. Yet many constellations were not gods, but mortals elevated or exiled into the sky. Andromeda, chained to the rock. Hercules, muscles frozen in time. Pegasus, the winged horse, galloping through the cosmos. But even beyond the big names, subtle beings lived in the sky. In Japanese folklore, the stars are populated by lovers and spirits. Tanabata, the star festival, celebrates the tale of Orihime and Hikoboshi, 2 star-crossed lovers, Vega and Altair, separated by the Milky Way and allowed to meet only once a year. In Native American traditions, celestial beings are often tied to animals. The Lakota speak of the star people who came to Earth. The Iroquois tell of a sky woman who fell from the heavens, bringing with her the seeds of life. And in the traditions of the Inuit, the aurora borealis, those ethereal curtains of light, are not just physics, but the spirits of ancestors playing in the sky. Every culture populates the heavens in its own way, with gods or ghosts, lovers or warriors, serpents or birds. But what unites them all is this: the sky is never empty. It is always watching, always alive, a place of origin, of memory, of return. To name its inhabitants was to claim a connection to something greater, to say, we are not alone, to believe that above the chaos of Earth there is order, however mysterious, however divine. These sky beings, though invisible by day, remain with us, in stories, in stars, and perhaps somewhere deep in the architecture of our imagination. Let us now step into the story itself, a tale that begins not with a god, but with a question. Why does Orion always chase the Pleiades? In the deep ink of night, these 2 constellations perform an endless dance. One, a proud hunter with a belt of stars. The other, a delicate cluster, 7 sisters, huddled close. He follows. They flee. This celestial chase has echoed across cultures. In Greek mythology, Orion was a giant hunter, skilled, boastful, and too proud of his conquests. He claimed he could slay every beast on earth. The gods, displeased by his arrogance, sent a scorpion to kill him. And so, Orion and Scorpius were both placed in the sky, but always opposite. When one rises, the other sets, forever in pursuit, never to meet. But the story doesn't end there. In one version, Orion becomes obsessed with the Pleiades, 7 daughters of Atlas and Pleione. He chases them relentlessly across the earth. To save them, Zeus transforms the sisters into stars. They rise into the heavens, glowing with sorrow and safety. Yet still, Orion follows. This myth is more than a story, it's a map of the sky. The constellations do, in fact, behave this way. Orion rises in winter. The Pleiades precede him, visible in autumn skies. The motion matches the myth. But what's fascinating is that similar stories appear far from Greece. In Aboriginal Australian legend, a group of 7 sisters is also chased across the sky by a male figure. The Yolngu people of northern Australia tell of Walu, the Sun Woman, and the 7 sisters pursued by Julpan, the hunter. In this telling, the sisters aren't just stars, they are part of a moral teaching about boundaries, consent, and cosmic justice. The Cherokee have a tale of 7 boys who dance so often, so joyfully, they float into the sky, becoming stars. Their mother, devastated, tries to bring them back, only to have one fall to earth. The rest remain, the Pleiades. Among the Kiowa of North America, 7 sisters are pursued by a giant. To escape, they climb onto a rock and pray. The rock rises into the sky, becoming Devil's Tower. The sisters become stars. Again and again, we hear this pattern. 7 stars. A pursuer. A chase. Why? Some believe it's because the Pleiades are one of the most distinctive star clusters visible to the naked eye, especially in pre-industrial skies. Their grouping, their sparkle, it demands attention. In ancient times, many could see all 7 stars clearly. Today, with light pollution, most see only 6. This may explain another oddity. In many myths, one of the Pleiades is said to have vanished. In Greek tales, it's Merope, who hides her face in shame after marrying a mortal. In Japan, she is said to have strayed from her sisters. In Aboriginal lore, one sister is stolen. It's as if the sky changed, and the stories changed with it. As visibility faded, myth stepped in to explain. But perhaps, deeper than astronomy, lies a universal theme. The chase, the longing, the boundary between desire and danger. These myths are more than celestial maps. They are emotional truths. Orion's pursuit is not just physical, it is symbolic. Of obsession, of pursuit without understanding, of the eternal gap between longing and love. And the stars? They remember. They tell the story again and again. In every language, in every season, in every sky. Not all myths agree. Sometimes, the same stars tell different stories, depending on where you stand on Earth. Let's return to the Pleiades. While the Greeks called them the 7 sisters, in Japan, they are known as Subaru, meaning to unite, or to gather. Fitting, as the star cluster symbolizes togetherness and unity in Japanese culture. It's no coincidence the car company Subaru uses 6 stars in its logo, the visible ones to the modern eye. Among the Maori of New Zealand, the Pleiades are Matariki, a mother and her 6 daughters. Their appearance signals the start of the new year, winter's turning point, a time of reflection and planting. Unlike the Greek sorrow, Matariki is joy, celebration, renewal. In Hawaiian tradition, they are called Makaliai, and their rising marks the Makahiki season of peace, harvest, and thanksgiving. War was forbidden. The gods were honored, all watched by the returning stars. The stars stay the same, but the meaning shifts. Now look to the southern hemisphere, where Orion flips upside down. His belt becomes a canoe. In Polynesian navigation, the 3 stars in a row aren't part of a hunter. They are part of a vessel sailing across the ocean of night. The rest of Orion becomes paddlers or warriors, depending on the island and tradition. The sky is not a single narrative, it is a patchwork of meaning. Consider the Big Dipper. In the U.S., it's a ladle. To the British, the plow. To the Chinese, part of the Northern Dipper, a sacred structure used to measure time and fate. In many Native American traditions, it is a bear being chased by 3 hunters. Each autumn, the bear is wounded, its blood staining the leaves red. Same stars, different stories, different lessons. In the Arctic, the Inuit see the constellation we know as Cassiopeia not as a queen, but as a lamp hanging in the sky, guiding hunters in the long polar night. The same shape that was a throne in Greece becomes a lifeline in the cold. These regional myths show us something essential, that the sky is a mirror, and what we see in it reflects who we are. A farming society might see a plow. A hunter might see prey. A seafaring culture sees a canoe. A kingdom sees a crown. And yet, the stars do not change. We do. And so myths become cultural time capsules. They preserve not just stories, but worldviews, belief systems, moral codes, seasonal rhythms. Even within a single civilization, the stars can hold multiple meanings. Take China, for example. While the Western world divided the sky into 88 constellations, the Chinese system identified over 280 asterisms, small star groups, each tied to court officials, mythical beasts, weapons, and ancestral spirits. Their sky was not filled with gods, but with an entire imperial bureaucracy above the clouds. Or take the Maya. They viewed the Milky Way as the Wakam Chan, the world tree. Its branches reached the heavens. Its roots touched the underworld. It was both a road and a river, connecting all realms. At certain times of year, the Milky Way aligned vertically, just like the sacred tree in their creation myths. This wasn't poetic coincidence. It was cosmological truth, written in stars. And that's what makes these variations so powerful. They're not disagreements. They're perspectives. Each culture took the same canvas and painted a different truth. And in doing so, they revealed their values, fears, and dreams. Because the night sky doesn't just tell us where we are. It tells us who we are. Let's pause for a moment and look not at the stories themselves, but at the symbols hidden inside them. Because myths of the sky are not just tales of gods and heroes. They are rich with imagery, encoded with meanings that transcend language. Let's start with animals. In nearly every culture, celestial myths are filled with creatures, often those observed most closely by the people telling the tale. The serpent, for instance, appears everywhere. In Hindu cosmology, the endless cosmic snake Shisha coils beneath Vishnu, holding the universe stable on his many hoods. In Norse mythology, Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent, circles the earth beneath the sea, so vast he can bite his own tail. In Mesoamerican belief, Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, ruled over the sky, knowledge and wind, blending bird and snake, earth and heaven. Why the serpent? It sheds its skin, symbolizing death and rebirth. It slithers silently, like a shadow. Its shape, circular, coiling, mirrors the motion of stars, the rings of planets, the cycles of time. Then the bird, often seen as a messenger between worlds. In Egyptian myth, the Ba or soul is represented as a bird with a human head, capable of flying between the realms of the living and the dead. In Greco-Roman tales, Aquila, the eagle of Zeus, carries the thunderbolts of a sky god and later becomes a constellation. The Native American thunderbird rules the skies, flashing lightning from its wings, drumming thunder with its flaps. In many myths, the act of flying isn't just movement, it's transformation. It's the leap from the earthly to the divine. And what of numbers? They matter. 7 is everywhere. 7 stars of the Pleiades. 7 heavens in Islamic and Jewish cosmology. 7 classical planets in ancient astronomy. 7 days in the week. It is a number of completeness, of the known and the mystical. The number 12 also looms large. 12 zodiac signs. 12 Olympian gods. 12 months. 12 stations of the sun through the year. These numbers weren't chosen at random. They reflect lunar cycles, solar paths, star movements. Myth and math intertwined. Even colors carry weight. Black is the void, the mystery, the fertile unknown. Gold is the sun, the divine, the incorruptible. Blue is the sky, the celestial, the gateway between here and there. Then there are objects, everyday items raised to cosmic status. A bough, in many cultures, becomes a rainbow, connecting sky and earth, promise and peril. A ladder or vine, like in African and Mesoamerican myths, becomes a passage to the stars. A stone fallen from the heavens is not just a meteorite. It is a gift, a message, a relic. And always, there's the circle, the sun, the moon, the orbit, the wheel, the halo. The circle is everywhere, symbol of time, of life, of cycles that never end. Even the Milky Way, stretched across the sky, was often imagined as a river, a road, or a tree, something that connected all realms, all beings, all stories. In myth, Symbolism isn't just decorative. It's functional. It's how ancient people encoded knowledge of astronomy, of agriculture, of ethics, of origin. A serpent may mark a constellation, but also a season. A bird might symbolize a god, but also a migration. A number might carry a myth, but also guide a ritual. These symbols layered meaning upon meaning, so that the stories weren't just told. They were felt. And that's the true power of myth. It doesn't argue. It resonates. You don't need to understand every detail. You just need to look up and remember how it made you feel. What happens to myths when the world changes? Do they vanish? Or do they simply evolve? Even in our age of satellites, quantum physics, and interstellar telescopes, the stories we once told under ancient skies have not disappeared. They have shifted into new forms, new media, new meanings. Take the names of the planets: Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. We still use the Roman gods to label worlds we now explore with robotic probes. We launch missions to Juno and Europa, unaware, perhaps, that we are echoing ancient mythologies with every scientific milestone. Astronomy hasn't replaced mythology. It has quietly preserved it. The constellations, they're still there. We teach our children to find Orion. We point to the Big Dipper to locate the North Star. Apps on our phones map the night sky, revealing to modern eyes the same ancient shapes. The myths linger. In language, too, the old gods speak. We describe someone strong as a Herculean figure. We warn of a Pandora's box. We fall under someone's spell, or call their downfall a nemesis. Each word is a fossil, once part of a living story. In literature, the sky remains sacred. Writers still craft heroes who ascend into the heavens, or descend from the stars. Science fiction, for all its rockets and AI, is mythology reskinned, humans seeking meaning in the cosmos. From Arthur C. Clarke to Octavia Butler, our stories still revolve around cosmic origin, destiny, and transcendence. Cinema, perhaps more than any other medium, has become the new temple of myth. Look at the Star Wars saga, a galaxy filled with chosen ones, ancient orders, dark sides, and balance. Its creator, George Lucas, drew directly from Joseph Campbell's theory of the monomyth, the hero's journey, embedded in every culture's legends. Or consider Marvel's adaptation of Norse mythology. Thor is now both a comic book character and a cinematic god, his myth reshaped for new generations. Even in video games, the stars call. In games like Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War, or The Legend of Zelda, myth and cosmos intertwine, offering players not just entertainment, but immersion into symbolic worlds. And still, the night sky plays its part. Festivals around the globe mark celestial events. In Japan, Tanabata is still celebrated. Lovers on opposite sides of the Milky Way reunited once a year. In India, the Kumbh Mela is held when planetary alignments match sacred configurations, drawing millions to the Ganges. In the West, eclipses still draw crowds, even if we now understand them scientifically. We no longer fear the sun going dark, but we still pause. We still marvel. Even astrology, once dismissed by the scientific world, has resurged, especially among younger generations seeking meaning beyond algorithms and headlines. They don't necessarily believe the planets control them, but they do believe stories help explain their lives. They offer archetypes, patterns, a way to say, I see myself in this. And perhaps that's what the sky has always been, a stage large enough to hold our inner drama. Whether in temples or on screens, myths continue to orbit us. They reflect not just where we are, but where we wish to go. Because even as we send rovers to Mars and peer into black holes, we still look up and wonder, who are we? Beneath this vast and silent sky, it's easy to dismiss myths as fantasy, as stories we outgrew. But look closer, and you'll find something remarkable. These stories about stars, gods, serpents, and skies often held deep truths, long before science could explain them. Let's begin with anthropology. Why do so many cultures tell nearly identical stories about the sky? Because for tens of thousands of years, humans migrated from the same origins. We carried not only our bodies, but our symbols. As we walked, we looked up. And those stars, the Pleiades, Orion, the Milky Way, they became our shared map. Some scholars argue that certain star myths are over 20,000 years old, older than agriculture, older than writing. These were not just tales. They were tools. Encoded within them were seasonal cues. When to plant, when to hunt, when to prepare for flood or frost. The Dogon people of Mali speak of a dark, invisible star orbiting Sirius, what they call Patolo. For centuries, this was dismissed as myth, but in 1970, Western astronomers confirmed Sirius B, a white dwarf, so small and dense it's invisible to the naked eye. Coincidence? Cultural memory? A mystery, still debated. In archaeoastronomy, we've learned that many ancient structures align not randomly, but precisely, with solstices, equinoxes, and stellar risings. The pyramids of Giza align with Orion's belt. Stonehenge marks the solstice. Chaco Canyon, in the American Southwest, features sun markers that light up only during specific celestial events. These alignments suggest a level of observation and intention far more advanced than we once believed. People didn't just tell stories about the stars. They built their lives around them. Even the myths of chaos and cosmic balance reflect universal human concerns. In Hinduism, the cosmos is born, destroyed, and reborn in an endless cycle, much like today's models of the oscillating universe. In Norse myth, the world will end in Ragnarok, a fiery apocalypse, followed by rebirth. In modern cosmology, we speak of heat death, cosmic inflation, and even multiverses, all theories that mirror ancient patterns of destruction and renewal. In psychology, Carl Jung proposed that myths and symbols arise from the collective unconscious, deep structures in the human mind. The hero, the mother, the trickster, the sky god. We didn't invent these figures. We remembered them. They emerged from us. Because we are made to tell stories. Even the night sky itself may be hardwired into our biology. Studies show that people deprived of natural darkness, overexposed to artificial light, suffered disrupted sleep, higher anxiety, and weakened cognitive function. The stars are not just beautiful. They're part of our rhythm. When we lose the night, we lose part of ourselves. And that brings us here, to a paradox. We are more advanced than ever before. We've mapped the stars. We've walked on the moon. We've captured images of galaxies being born. And yet, we still tell stories. Because data isn't meaning. And explanation isn't understanding. Myths gave us a way to feel our place in the cosmos, before we could measure it. And now, science confirms what myth always offered, that we are small, that we are connected, that we are part of something vast and unknown. In this way, myth and science are not enemies. They are partners. One tells us how, the other tells us why. And the stars have always held both. So here we are, at the end of story. Or perhaps, at the beginning of a new one. Because myths never truly end. They loop. They echo. They return with every rising moon. Every child who asks, "What's that star?" Every moment someone stands alone in the dark and looks up. The sky has changed. The world has changed. We no longer rely on the stars to track the seasons, to guide our ships, to explain a thunderstorm. But in a strange way, we still need them. Not just as points of light, but as points of meaning. Because the sky is the one story we all share. No matter where you're born, no matter what language you speak, no matter which gods you believe, or don't, the stars are above us all. They watch the birth of cities, the fall of empires, the wandering of tribes, the prayers of kings, the questions of children. And they are still watching. The myths of celestial beings are not relics. They are maps of wonder. They trace our emotional landscapes, our awe, our fear, our desire to connect. They show us that even when we didn't understand the world, we tried. We painted it with meaning. We gave it names. We filled the silence with song. And somehow, across millennia, those songs still sing. We look at Orion, not as a hunter, but as a reminder of hubris and longing. We watch the Pleiades and feel the ache of separation, of family, of reunion. We see the Milky Way and remember roads, rivers, trees, spirits. Even now, in the most modern corners of our lives, we echo the old patterns. We name our cars after stars, our children after goddesses, our space missions after myths. Because deep down we know, the night sky is more than just physics. It's a reflection of everything we've ever hoped to be, of everything we've feared we might become, of everything we still don't understand. So the next time you step outside, when the city lights dim and the world grows quiet, look up. Don't rush. Don't name. Just feel. Because in that silence, you are part of something eternal. A story older than language, written in light, told in darkness, and carried, still, by the breath of every human heart. We were born of stars, and in our myths, we return to them.